My name is Ruth Parker. I am 62 years old. I have soft gray hair, a slow smile, and hands that know how to work. I have packed school lunches, cleaned houses, stitched torn hems, and counted coins at the kitchen table until my eyes burned. I am a mother. I am a widow. I am a person who tries to be kind, even when kindness costs. My son's name is Jacob. Everyone calls him Jake. He is the kind of boy who used to run to the door when he heard my keys at night. He would shout, "Mom," like I was a hero. I kept that sound in my heart for years, like a song. Now, let me take you to the moment that changed everything. The band was warming up. The ballroom lights were gold and warm. Tall, white flowers stood on every table. People glided around in silk and black suits, smiling with their teeth, and not with their eyes. A photographer kept saying, "Perfect! Hold it. One more." I stood near the front, holding the small gift I brought, wrapped in ivory paper with a long blue ribbon. I had tied that ribbon twice to make sure it would not slip. Then my new daughter-in-law, Madison, came to me with a smile that did not touch her eyes. "Mrs. Parker," she whispered, close enough for me to feel her perfume, sweet like fake cherries. "Could you sit at the back table? We don't want the front photos to look messy. You know, older faces show more. It's a vibe thing. Messy, older, back table, her bridesmaid, a girl with perfect curls, and the kind of laugh that cuts, nodded like a little bird. It's for the aesthetic," she added. "You understand." I looked at them both. I felt the floor tilt just a little, but my face did what it has learned to do over many years. It smiled. "Of course," I said. My voice was soft and steady. "I understand." I walked to the back. Then I did something none of them expected. I did not sit down. I lifted my gift from the table, carefully, the way you lift a baby sleeping in a blanket, and I turned toward the exit. The band hit the first chord. The crowd clapped. No one noticed me at first. Then the photographer raised his head. A cousin stopped talking. In the glass doors I saw my own reflection, small, gray, plain, but upright. I pushed the door open and stepped into the cool evening air. I kept walking. I kept my smile. I went home. The next morning, at 7:12 a.m., there was a fist at my door. Then another. Then a chorus of voices, angry and scared at the same time. "Ruth, open up." "Mom, what did you do?" "Mrs. Parker, please just talk to us." The kind of knocking that rattles the picture frames. I stood in my hallway, holding the gift I had brought to the wedding. The ribbon was still tight. The paper was still smooth. I put my hand on the lock. I turned it, and I opened the door. To tell you how we reached that door, I need to go back a little. Jake was born after a long night and a longer life. His father, Ben, was a mechanic who loved old trucks and gospel music. We had a small house with peeling paint, 2 bedrooms, and a porch that leaned like a tired man. We did not have much, but we had enough. Ben taught Jake how to change a tire. I taught him how to fold warm laundry and hold crying people gently. Then Ben got sick, the kind of sickness that creeps into your blood and sits there like winter. He was gone by the time Jake was 13. That year, I learned how to be both mom and dad. I learned how to swallow tears and show up on time. I learned how to make one chicken last 3 days. Jake grew up smart, handsome, and kind. He got a scholarship to a state college. He called me every Sunday. He would tell me about classes, roommates, and the girl he liked in his sophomore year, who had a laugh like a bell. It didn't work out with the bell girl. Life moved on. Then, after college, Jake met Madison at a real estate office. She was all smooth lines and quick plans. She looked at him like he was the last seat on the last train. He melted. I could see it the first time he brought her home. Mrs. Parker, she said, hugging me carefully so her blouse wouldn't wrinkle. I love Jake so much. We're going to build something big. He's special, you know? She talked fast, like she was late for her own mind. She called me Mrs. Parker instead of Ruth or Mom. I did not mind. Names take time. Trust takes longer. I watched. I waited. When they got engaged, I clapped in my kitchen and baked a pie. I do not have many talents, but I can make a cinnamon pie that can fix a tired heart. I gave them the best seats at my table. I asked what they needed. Nothing, really, Madison said, sipping the tea I'd poured. We've got it under control. But if you want to help with a small thing, the venue asked for a larger deposit to lock in the date. They raised the rate. It's high, but it's normal. If you can co-pay or whatever, we can send you the link. I looked at Jake. He looked at his hands. Mom, he said, we'll pay you back. It's just a timing thing. I know timing things. I had a small savings account. It took me 10 years to fill it. 10 years of extra shifts and worn shoes. 10 years of saying no to dresses and yes to groceries. That money was not just dollars. It was nights. It was years. But I looked at my son's face, and I remembered the way he once ran to me with skinned knees and big dreams. I wired the deposit the same day. For love, I wrote in the note line. Then I went to work and packed someone else's pantry with neat rows of soup and cereal. A week later, I got a save the date card. It was heavy and beautiful. It looked like money. Another week, Madison sent a list of guest aesthetic rules. Neutral colors only. No loud patterns. We want a clean, modern look. Her email said, please keep hair simple. Avoid bright lipstick. This is for the photos. I smiled a little. Then I folded the paper and slid it into my Bible. People plan perfect pictures. Life prefers honest faces. As the wedding got closer, little things piled up like leaves in a corner. Madison would frown at my thrift store dress and say, we'll see. She would ask if I could come early to set up the candy table, but stay out of the bridal suite because the photographer needs clean space. Once I heard her tell Jake on the phone. She didn't know I'd picked up upstairs. Your mom's sweet, but she's not the brand. Not the brand. I stood in my hallway with the phone warm against my face and felt something old inside me crack just a little. I still kept going. Kindness is a decision you make again and again. I decided. There was one more thing I did not tell them. While I was wiring money and making pies and choosing a simple dress, I was also planning my gift. A real gift. I had been saving quietly for something important for years, even before the deposit. I wanted to give Jake a start that did not wobble. Something solid. Something with keys. The plan was simple and secret. On their wedding night, they would open my card and find a deed to a small starter house on Maple Street, white fence, blue door, big elm out front, and a letter with a promise for a little fund to fix the roof and paint the nursery someday. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, safe, and paid for in full. I had worked overtime at 2 jobs to put it together. My plan was to give it and walk away quiet and happy. That was the dream. Then came the wedding day. Then came back table. Then came my smile and my feet on the floor and the door opening to the city night. I reached my car, set the gift on the passenger seat like a sleeping child, and drove home with the radio low. I made tea. I sat at my kitchen table. I touched the ribbon. When you are hurt, your mind is loud. Mine was very loud. Part of me said, it doesn't matter. Let it go. It's their day. Be bigger. Another part of me said, no, you are not a shadow. You are not a smudge to be hidden in the back of a photo. You are the reason that boy is standing in a suit today. You fed him. You got him here. I sat with both voices. I thought about kindness. I also thought about respect. That night, I walked to my bedroom, opened the top drawer of my dresser, and took out a file folder labeled Maple Street. Inside was the deed, a letter from my lawyer, and a small envelope with two shiny keys. I set them on the bedspread. I sat down. I looked at the clock. 10:06 p.m. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a contact. Heather, Realtor. I stared at the name. My thumb shook. I put the phone down. I picked it up again. I thought about Jake at 5 with jam on his face. I thought about Jake at 13 with a hollow voice at his father's funeral. I thought about Jake at 28, handsome and proud, telling me, "Mom, I want to take care of you someday." I wanted my gift to be a blessing. Gifts should lift, not punish. But a gift is not a glue trap. A gift is not a chain. If a gift is used to push you into a corner and slap a label on your face, back table, is it still a gift? My phone buzzed. A text from Jake. "Mom, where did you go? You left before cake. Everything okay?" My thumb hovered. I typed, "I'm home. We'll talk tomorrow. I love you." I saw the typing dots. Then nothing. I made my bed even though it was already made. I washed a clean cup. I sat back down. I listened to the quiet. Then I stood, got my purse, and took out the little business card from the wedding planner. Sleek, black, gold letters. Gleam Events, Lila Stanton. She had called me a darling mother of the groom when she wanted me to sign a form. Her voice was smooth like a hotel lobby. "There's something you should know. The deposit I wired a month earlier, it did not just help. The truth is, it covered almost everything. I did not want Jake to have a heavy bill. I had told Lila to keep my name off the papers, not because I need credit, but because I like quiet. But my name was still on the original payment note as the primary payer. And there were certain clauses. Clauses about control. Clauses about confirmation. Clauses about who can make decisions if the primary payer says the words. I did not plan to use those words. Until that night, I dialed. She answered on the third ring, voice sleepy but polite. "Gleam Events, this is Lila." "Hello, Lila. This is Ruth Parker." A pause. Then a bright switch in her tone. "Ruth, the day was beautiful. You must be so proud." "I am proud of my son," I said. My voice was calm. "And I am calling about the payment authorization on the venue and the add-on services. I have a question about the control clause." Silence. Then paper sounds. "Oh, yes, I see it here. You are listed as the primary payer for the deposit. What did you need?" "I need the final payment authorization removed from automatic approval," I said, "effective now." Another pause. "Tonight? The system. Well, the final batch posts by noon tomorrow." "I understand," I said. "Remove automatic approval. I will review each line item personally before any further funds are released. If that requires a written notice, I will send it now." "Ruth, are you sure? It could cause delays." "Delays are fine," I said. "Send me the form." I hung up. I filled out what she emailed. I sent it back. I made a copy for my records. I put it in the Maple Street file behind the deed. I did not feel joy. I did not feel revenge. I felt steady like a tree in a hard wind. Then I opened a clean page on my kitchen notepad and wrote a letter. "Dear Jake," it began. "You are my son and I love you. Love should not make a person smaller. It should not hide them. I left last night because I will not stand in the back of my own life. We will talk today. But first, I need you to think about the kind of family you and Madison want to be. Kindness is a choice. Respect is a promise. People forget that cameras fade, but character stays." I ended with, "I am here. I will always be your mother, but I will not be your shadow. Love, Mom." I slid the letter into an envelope. I placed it next to the wrapped gift on the table. The ribbon still looked like a river. When the sun came up, I made coffee. I fried 2 eggs. The house smelled like home. Then the pounding started. It shook my little porch. Voices rose. Some I knew, some I didn't. A man shouted, "She sabotaged the whole thing." A woman cried, "Just open the door, Ruth." I walked to the hallway. My heart beat hard, but even. I picked up the gift. I set it on a chair by the door. I unlocked the deadbolt. I turned the knob. Jake stood there in his wrinkled tux, tie loose, eyes red like he had not slept. Madison was beside him in a white hoodie over her perfect hair, mascara smudged just enough to make her look like a sad movie. Behind them, cousins, aunts, and 2 of her friends I had seen ordering the servers around the day before. Everyone looked angry, confused, or both. "Mom," Jake said, breathless, "we need to talk." "Now." Madison pushed forward. "Mrs. Parker, what you did last night." I lifted my hand, palm up. My smile was small but real. "Come in," I said, "but before we start, I want you to remember something. This is my house. We will use soft voices. We will sit. We will tell the truth. They came in because truth has a gravity you can't fight forever." They filled my small living room with expensive cologne and loud breathing. People perched on the edge of my couch, like birds on a wire. No one touched the cinnamon-scented candle on the coffee table. No one noticed the photo of Ben and me on the mantel, young and bright. Jake stood in front of me. "Mom," he said, "why did you leave? Why did you touch the payments?" Lila said, "Everything got held. The band, the invoices, the honeymoon package. People are calling. They said you." He swallowed hard. He looked like a boy again for 1 second. "Mom, just tell me why." I could have said many things. I could have talked about nights and years and hands that worked until they shook. I could have told him about the phone call I heard. I could have explained brands and back tables and the small remarks that pile up until they become a wall. But I didn't. Not yet. Words are matches. You should strike them only when you're ready to hold the fire. "Jake," I said gently, "what did Madison tell me last night before the photos?" He blinked. He looked at her. She squared her shoulders. "I asked you to sit at the back table for the photos," she said, "because the front needed a certain look. It's not personal. It's a wedding plan." I nodded slowly. The front needed a look, I repeated, and I was not the look. No one spoke. In that quiet, you could hear the second hand on my clock tap its small way around the face. I reached for the gift on the chair. I set it on my lap. I ran my fingers along the ribbon. I did not untie it. I looked up at them all, my son with his broken eyes, my daughter-in-law with her sharp chin, a room full of people who still smelled like last night's flowers. "Here is what will happen," I said softly. "We will talk. I will listen. And then I will decide what to do with this. I tapped the gift just once. That decision will be final." Madison leaned forward, voice tight. "You can't hold us hostage with a present." "Madison," I said, "a present is not a hostage. A person is not a prop." Her mouth opened. It closed. The room shifted like a boat. I stood up. I walked to the window and pulled the curtain back. Outside, the elm tree in my yard was shaking green light over the lawn. A neighbor walked a small dog. The world kept going. I let the curtain fall. I put my hand on the Maple Street file on the side table. I did not open it. Not yet. I looked at my son and felt the old song in my chest. "Mom." It was faint, but it was still there under the noise. And then, before anyone could speak again, my phone lit up on the table and began to ring. The name on the screen, made 3 people gasp at once. Heather, realtor. I looked at the name. I looked at the room. I reached out. I answered. Ruth, Heather said, voice crisp, businesslike. I got your late-night email, and I need to confirm before I act. Are you sure you want to pull the full cash offer on the Maple Street house? The sellers can still accept our backup if you don't give the final yes right now. It's in your hands. Every head turned toward me. Jake's eyes widened. Mom, what house? I met his gaze. My hand was steady on the phone. My voice was calm. And I said, Heather, go ahead. And go ahead and what, Mom? Jake's voice cracked like glass. The room froze. Every face turned toward me, waiting for the next word to fall. My hand gripped the phone, so tightly my knuckles turned white. Heather's calm voice echoed through the speaker. Ruth, I need your answer. Do you want me to pull the cash offer on the Maple Street house? Or do I push it through and finalize the purchase today? The sellers are calling. This is your last chance to decide. The silence in my living room was so heavy you could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Madison's eyes darted between me and Jake. Her lips pressed together like she wanted to scream, but couldn't. Jake stepped closer, his hands trembling. Mom, what house? What's she talking about? I looked at my son, my only child, my heartbeat, the boy I raised from scraped knees to strong shoulders. My chest tightened. I wanted to tell him everything right there, but instead, I lifted my chin and answered Heather. Heather, I said softly but firmly, hold the offer. There was a sharp inhale across the room. Madison gasped so loudly it almost sounded fake. What do you mean hold the offer? She snapped. Do you realize how much you're messing up? You can't just. Quiet. My voice cut through the room, steady and cold. Everyone blinked at me. Madison's mouth hung open, but no sound came out. On the phone, Heather said, I'll freeze the deal and notify the sellers. But Ruth, they won't wait forever. You'll need to confirm soon. Thank you, Heather. I'll call you back when I'm ready. I ended the call and set the phone on the table. The weight of the decision sat heavy in the air. Jake's voice was almost a whisper. Mom, what house? I touched the file on the side table, the one with the deed, the keys, the dream. My voice trembled, but I kept it steady. The Maple Street house. I bought it for you, Jake. For you and Madison. It was supposed to be my wedding gift. The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, whispers like wildfire. Madison's face went pale, then red, then pale again. Jake's eyes filled with tears he didn't want to let fall. You bought us a house. His voice cracked again, like he couldn't believe his own ears. I nodded. Yes, a small house, but yours, paid in full. No loans, no debt, a place to start your life together. My hands shook as I lifted the wrapped gift on my lap. That's what's inside here. The deed, the keys, the promise of something better. I paused. Then I let my smile fade. But last night, I was told to sit at the back. That my face would ruin the photos. That I was messy. My voice broke on that last word, but I steadied it. And so I walked out. Because love should not hide you in the shadows. The room went so silent that even the ticking clock on the wall seemed loud. Jake's face crumpled. Mom, I didn't know. Madison shot up from the couch, her voice sharp as a knife. This is manipulation. You're making us look like villains because you want to control us. A house? Seriously? Nobody asked you to do that. I turned my head slowly and looked at her. My voice was calm, but every word landed heavy. Madison, no one asked me. You're right. I chose to, because that's what mothers do. They give without being asked. But respect, that's something you give back without being told. Jake flinched. Madison's jaw tightened. The cousin sitting in the corner shifted uncomfortably. I set the gift back down on the table, untouched. This gift isn't gone. It isn't given either. It's waiting for me to see if this family, my family, still understands what kindness means. Madison scoffed, crossing her arms. So now you're threatening us? Holding a house over our heads because you're bitter? I stood tall, my voice low but unshakable. No, Madison, I'm teaching you. One day you might have a child, and if that child grows to see you as something to hide, then you'll know this pain. Until then, you'll never understand. Jake buried his face in his hands, and for the first time since he was a boy, he sobbed in my living room. And just as the room cracked open with raw emotion, the front door burst wide again. A new figure stormed in, tall, sharp suit, eyes burning with fury. It was Madison's father. "Ruth Parker," he roared, "what in God's name have you done to my daughter's wedding?" The entire room turned toward him. My heart pounded, because now the real battle had begun. Madison's father filled the doorway like a storm cloud, his voice rolling through my little living room. His presence alone pulled every ounce of air out of the room. He wasn't just tall, he carried himself like a man who had always gotten his way, a man who believed money and power could bulldoze through any wall. His gray suit was pressed so perfectly it looked untouched by the chaos of the wedding night, but his eyes burned with fire. "Ruth Parker," he spat, pointing a finger at me, "you humiliated my daughter. Do you have any idea how many important people were at that wedding? Do you have any idea what it looked like when the groom's mother walked out in the middle of the ceremony?" Madison leapt to her feet, emboldened now that her father stood behind her. "Exactly. She abandoned us. She ruined the flow of everything. People kept asking where she was. The photos, the reception." I raised a hand. My voice was soft but steady. "Enough." That one word cut through the noise like a blade. The cousins on the couch sank lower. Even Jake lifted his head from his hands, his tear-streaked face still raw. Madison's father took a step closer, his polished shoes clicking on my wooden floor. "You think you're clever, don't you? Holding some house over them, like a ransom. My daughter told me what you're doing." "No," I interrupted calmly. "She told you her version." His jaw clenched. "Then tell me yours. And you'd better make it quick." I took a deep breath and stood tall, though my knees trembled inside. "Last night, at your daughter's wedding, I was told to sit at the back, so my face wouldn't ruin the photos. I brought a gift that would have changed their lives, a home, debt-free, and I was ready to give it quietly, without asking for anything in return. But when someone tells me I am unworthy to stand beside my son, when they call me a mess to be hidden, I do not stay. I left." Gasps rippled across the room. Madison's father blinked, caught off guard. He turned sharply to her. "Madison, is this true?" Madison's cheeks flushed crimson. "Dad, it was for the aesthetic. Everyone knows weddings are about the pictures." She's twisting it. "No," I said firmly, my voice sharp enough to cut. "I am not twisting anything. I am telling the truth." Jake rose slowly to his feet. His voice shook, but his words landed heavy. "She's not lying, Dad." I heard Madison whisper it. I didn't stop it, and that's on me. He looked at me with broken eyes. "Mom, I should have defended you. I'm so sorry." For the first time that morning, tears burned my throat. My son's apology was raw, but the wound was deep. Madison's father exhaled heavily, glaring at his daughter. "Do you realize what you've done?" he hissed at her. "This woman is the reason Jake even exists. You insulted her at her own son's wedding. Have you lost your mind?" Madison's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Dad, you don't get it." He silenced her with a glare so sharp she shrank back into her chair. The room was thick with tension, but before anyone could speak again, a loud knock pounded at the door. 3 hard bangs that rattled the wood. Everyone froze. Jake wiped his eyes. "Who is that?" I walked to the door, my hands trembling. When I opened it, my breath caught. Standing on my porch was a man in a crisp navy suit, holding a leather briefcase. His badge gleamed in the morning light. "Mrs. Parker," he asked politely, "I'm here on behalf of the venue. There's been a formal dispute filed over last night's payment freeze. We need to discuss your role as the primary financial guarantor. It seems there's been a misunderstanding." The room erupted into chaos. Voices shouting, Madison's father demanding answers, Madison screaming about sabotage, Jake trying to calm everyone down. And in the middle of it all, I stood frozen, realizing that my quiet act of walking out had now set fire to something much larger than I ever expected. The man in the suit opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. "Mrs. Parker," he said firmly, "we need to resolve this immediately, because right now you hold more power over this entire wedding contract than anyone else in this room." The cousins gasped. Madison's father cursed under his breath. Jake turned pale. And Madison? She looked at me like I was suddenly the most dangerous woman she had ever met. The man in the navy suit set the stack of papers down on my coffee table with a heavy thud. Everyone stared at it like it was a bomb. His voice was calm, professional, but the weight of his words made the room feel smaller. "Mrs. Parker," he said, "because you covered the deposit in full. You were listed as the primary guarantor for all venue services. That means nothing could go forward without your authorization. When you froze the payments last night, the venue had no choice but to suspend all outstanding contracts tied to the event, including catering, the band, photography, and the honeymoon package." The room erupted like a pot boiling over. Madison clutched her head. "You can't be serious." "That's extortion," she screamed. "It's contract law." The man replied evenly. "Your mother-in-law has full authority until she transfers or releases it." Madison's father leaned forward, his fists clenched. "So you're saying she controls everything? The whole wedding?" "That's correct," the man said. "And unless Mrs. Parker authorizes payment, vendors will begin legal steps to recover their losses." The silence that followed was louder than the shouting. Jake's face turned pale. Madison looked like she might faint, and her father's jaw tightened until the veins in his neck bulged. All eyes turned to me. I sat very still, my hands folded in my lap. I didn't freeze the payments to punish anyone. I said softly, "I froze them because I needed to think. Because last night at the wedding, I was told I wasn't good enough to sit with my own son, that my face didn't belong in the front. And if my love isn't welcome at the front, then my money shouldn't be welcome at the back." The man in the suit glanced at me with something that looked like respect. Madison, however, shot to her feet, her voice high and sharp. "This is insane. You're ruining our lives over one comment about photos." Jake stood too, his voice breaking. "Madison, stop. This isn't just about photos. It's about respect. And you disrespected my mother." Madison's eyes filled with fury. "So you're taking her side?" Jake's voice shook, but he said it anyway. "Yes." The room went dead quiet. Madison's father stared at his daughter with disappointment, so sharp it cut deeper than any scream. The cousins exchanged uneasy glances. The lawyer cleared his throat, flipping through the papers. "Mrs. Parker, you can either release the funds now and finalize everything, or you can retain control and force renegotiation. It's your call." I looked down at the wrapped gift still sitting on my table. The blue ribbon glimmered faintly in the morning light. Inside was a house deed and a new beginning. But right now, in this room, it felt heavier than stone. I lifted the gift slowly, placing it in my lap. My eyes moved from Jake, broken, remorseful, to Madison, her face twisted with anger, and finally to her father, whose fury had shifted to shame. My decision, I said carefully, depends on one thing. I want to hear from Madison's own mouth why she thought I should be hidden away. I want the truth, not excuses. If she can give me that, maybe I'll consider signing these papers. If she cannot, then the deal is off. And so is the house. Madison froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. The silence stretched until it suffocated the room. Madison, her father barked, "Answer her." Her hands shook as she clenched her fists. Finally, she snapped, her voice raw and ugly. "Because you embarrass me. You don't dress right, you don't look right, you make us seem poor. I didn't want you ruining the photos that will be on our walls forever. Is that what you wanted to hear? Fine. That's the truth." Her words hung in the air like poison. Jake looked at her, as though he didn't even recognize her. Madison's father closed his eyes and shook his head. The cousins gasped. And me, I felt a strange calm settle over my chest. The kind of calm that comes when the storm finally shows you its face. I placed the gift back on the table, untied the ribbon, and slowly opened the box. The deed, the keys, the letter, everything I had prepared, sat inside. I lifted them out with steady hands. "Then you've made my choice very easy," I said. Before anyone could move, I tore the letter in half. Then again, until the pieces fell like snow on my coffee table. I held the deed over the fireplace and let the flame catch the corner. The fire licked it hungrily, curling the paper until it turned black. The keys followed, landing with a hiss in the fire. The room exploded, gasps, shouts, Madison shrieking, "No!" But I just stood there, watching the flames devour years of sacrifice. "This house was meant for love," I said quietly, "not for shame." And as the last of the deed turned to ash, Madison's father slammed his hand on the table, his voice shaking with rage. "Madison," he thundered, "you just destroyed the best thing that could have ever happened to you. And I will not clean up your mess this time." The room went still again, but before the silence could settle, my phone buzzed once more on the table. A new name appeared on the screen. Lila Stanton, wedding planner. I answered. "Mrs. Parker." Her voice was urgent, almost panicked. "We need to talk. Someone just called the venue claiming to be you, trying to override your payment freeze. And if I hadn't recognized the voice, I might have let it through. Do you know who it was?" I froze. Everyone leaned closer. And then Lila spoke again, her words cutting through the air like a blade. It was Madison. The room went dead silent after Lila's words. You could have heard a pin drop on the wooden floor. It was Madison, the planner had said. And just like that, every eye turned toward her. Jake's face drained of color. His voice was low, trembling, but filled with anger. "Madison, tell me she's lying." Madison's hands shot up defensively. Look, I only called because this whole thing was spiraling out of control. Someone had to fix it. I wasn't trying to trick anyone. I just pretended to be me." I cut in sharply. My voice was steady, but inside, my heart was pounding like a drum. "You pretended to be me, to override my authority. You tried to erase me from the story. Again." The lawyer in the navy suit adjusted his glasses, his tone matter-of-fact. "That's fraud. If Mrs. Parker wanted, she could press charges for impersonation in a financial contract." Gasps filled the room. Madison's face went pale as snow. "Charges?" she squeaked. "It wasn't that serious." Her father's voice thundered, making the walls shake. "Not serious? Madison, you committed fraud against your own mother-in-law, the woman who paid for your wedding. Do you realize what you've done?" Tears welled in Madison's eyes, but they weren't tears of guilt. They were tears of someone cornered. "Everyone's acting like she's a saint," she cried, pointing at me. "She's controlling, manipulative. She wants to own us with her money. She wants to humiliate me." Jake cut her off, his voice louder than I'd ever heard it. "Stop. Just stop, Madison. My mom has never tried to own me. She worked herself into the ground for me. Everything I have, everything I am, is because of her. And you," his voice broke, "you made her feel like she didn't belong at her own son's wedding. Do you know how unforgivable that is?" Madison's knees buckled, and she collapsed into a chair. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. But nobody rushed to comfort her, not even her father. The lawyer cleared his throat again, breaking the heavy silence. "Mrs. Parker, I need your decision. Do you want to pursue charges against Madison for attempted impersonation? And do you want to keep control of the funds, or release them back to the couple?" All eyes turned to me once more. Jake's gaze pleaded, but not for Madison, for me. Madison's father watched with a mixture of shame and expectation. The cousins leaned forward, wide-eyed. I sat back slowly, folding my hands in my lap. "I'm not pressing charges," I said softly. Madison lifted her head in relief, but her breath caught as I continued, "because she's already destroyed her own reputation with her actions. That's punishment enough. But I will not release the funds either. The money I worked for will not be used to build a marriage built on lies and disrespect." Madison's father closed his eyes and let out a long breath, as if a weight had finally dropped. Jake covered his face with both hands, whispering, "God, what have I done?" I reached across the table and touched my son's hand. "You didn't do this, Jake. You chose love. You just didn't see what was hiding under the surface." The lawyer gathered the papers into his briefcase. "Very well. Mrs. Parker retains full authority. I'll notify the venue and vendors." He stood, nodded respectfully at me, and walked out the door, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Madison jumped up suddenly, her voice sharp and desperate. "You can't just do this. You can't ruin our wedding and our marriage because of your pride." I turned to her, my voice calm, almost gentle. "No, Madison, I'm not ruining your marriage. You are." Her father's booming voice followed, each word cutting like thunder. "Pack your things, Madison. You're coming home. Until you learn respect, you are no wife to anyone." The room spun with gasps again. Madison's sobs grew louder, but the decision was final. She looked around the room, searching for anyone to defend her, but all she found was silence. Jake dropped to the couch, burying his face in his hands again, broken. And me? I sat tall, my heart heavy, but steady. The fire in the fireplace crackled softly, burning away the last of the Maple Street dream. But just when I thought the storm had passed, another knock echoed through the door. This one wasn't loud and angry. It was slow, deliberate, almost careful. Jake looked up, confused. Who else could that be? I stood, walked to the door, and opened it, and there on my porch stood a woman I hadn't seen in almost 30 years. Her hair was streaked with silver, her eyes sharp, her smile faint but knowing. "Hello, Ruth," she said softly. "It's been a long time." My heart stopped, because standing in front of me was Ben's sister, Jake's estranged aunt, the one who vanished after a bitter family fight decades ago. And the look in her eyes told me she hadn't come here by accident. For a moment, the world tilted. My throat tightened as I gripped the edge of the doorframe for balance. I hadn't seen her in 30 years, not since the funeral when her words had cut me like knives and she stormed out of our lives for good. "Margaret," I whispered, my voice trembling. She smiled faintly, though her eyes carried the weight of years. "It's still Ruth to you, I suppose." May I come in? The room behind me stirred in confusion. Jake rose slowly, wiping his tear-streaked face, his voice hoarse. Mom, who is this? I stepped aside, my heart thundering. This is your Aunt Margaret, your father's sister. Jake's eyes widened. Dad had a sister? Madison scoffed from the corner, her voice dripping venom. What is this, some kind of soap opera? Her father shot her a glare, so sharp she sank back into her seat. Silent, Margaret entered the room with quiet grace. She looked around, taking in the broken wedding party, the torn letter on the table, the ashes smoldering faintly in the fireplace. Her eyes lingered on Jake, and something softened in her expression. You look just like him, she said. Her voice cracked slightly, just like Ben at your age. Jake swallowed hard. Why didn't I know about you? Why didn't you ever come around? Her gaze flickered to me, then back to him. Because your mother and I had differences, and because there were things about your father's life that were never told to you. The room went still again. My chest tightened. Margaret! She raised her hand. No, Ruth, it's time. The boy is a man now. He deserves the truth. Jake's voice trembled. The truth about what? Margaret set her purse on the table and opened it carefully. From inside, she pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age, edges worn, as if it had been handled too many times. She placed it gently on the table between us all. This, she said softly, is your father's last letter. He gave it to me before he passed, and asked me to deliver it when the time was right. I've kept it all these years, waiting. I believe today is that day. Gasps filled the room. My heart hammered in my chest. Jake reached forward with trembling hands and picked up the envelope. His name was written on it in Ben's unmistakable handwriting, steady, bold, unshakable. Tears blurred my vision. I didn't know. I whispered. Margaret's eyes softened. He wanted you to know everything, Jake, about his illness, about his regrets, and about the truth of our family. Jake's hands shook as he tore open the envelope. Inside was a folded letter, creased and faded. He unfolded it slowly, his breath hitching. Read it, Margaret urged gently. Jake's voice wavered as he began. My dearest Jake, if you are reading this, it means I couldn't stay to watch you grow into the man I know you'll become. I need you to know that I loved you more than life itself. But there are truths I couldn't leave unsaid. Our family has secrets, burdens I carried, mistakes I made. His voice broke, and he handed me the letter. Mom, can't you read it? My hands trembled as I took the fragile paper. My eyes scanned the words, my heart breaking anew. Your mother gave up everything for us, but I failed her in ways you'll never fully understand. The business I claimed failed wasn't an accident. I trusted the wrong people, people who betrayed me. And Margaret, she tried to warn me, but I didn't listen. If you ever see her again, forgive her. She only wanted to protect you. And Ruth, if this letter reaches you, know that I'm sorry for the nights you cried alone. You deserve better from me. Take care of our boy. Teach him kindness, but also strength. And when the day comes that he must choose between love and respect, tell him to choose respect. Always. Because love without respect is not love at all. My voice cracked as I finished. The room was utterly silent. Only the sound of my tears hitting the paper filled the air. Jake's face was wet with tears, his chest heaving. Madison sat frozen, her mouth slightly open. Even her father looked shaken, his eyes lowered. Margaret placed a gentle hand on Jake's shoulder. Your father wanted you to know that truth, Jake. He wanted you to carry both love and respect forward, not one without the other. Jake swallowed hard, his eyes burning. Then what am I supposed to do now? My marriage is already falling apart. My mother was humiliated My father's secrets are spilling out 30 years later. What am I supposed to do with all of this? Margaret's gaze hardened as she looked directly at Madison. You start by choosing respect. And sometimes that means walking away from what disrespects you. Madison shot up, her voice shrill. Oh, please, this is ridiculous. A dead man's letter? This is nothing but emotional blackmail. Jake turned to her, his face red with rage. Enough, Madison. My father's last words are worth more than your entire attitude. You've disrespected my mother, my family, and now my father's memory. I don't even know who you are anymore. Madison's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came. And then, before anyone could breathe, Margaret spoke again, her tone sharp, cutting through the air like glass. There's one more thing Ben wanted Jake to know. Something even Ruth doesn't know. About the inheritance. The room gasped. I froze. Inheritance. Jake whispered. Margaret's eyes locked on mine, then back to Jake. Yes, there's money. A lot of it. And it's in your name. The room exploded into chaos. Shouts, gasps, Madison's eyes widening with greed, her father demanding answers. But all I could hear was the pounding of my heart, because if what Margaret said was true, then everything we thought we knew about Ben's death and the sacrifices we made after was about to unravel. The room boiled over like a pot left on high heat. Madison's eyes lit up the moment Margaret mentioned the word inheritance. Her greed was so naked it made my stomach turn. Inheritance. Madison gasped, jumping to her feet. Wait, how much? Where is it? Jake, this changes everything. We don't need your mom's charity or her stupid house anymore. We'll be rich. Jake's face hardened. Madison, sit down. But she didn't. Her hands fluttered like wings, her voice shrill and desperate. Do you hear what she just said? Money. A lot of it. You and I could finally live the way we were meant to. Forget your mother's little pity gift. We'll have real power now. Her father's hand slammed against the arm of his chair, the sound so sharp it made her jump. Madison, shut your mouth before you dig yourself even deeper. This isn't about you. She spun on him, furious. Of course it's about me. I'm his wife. Wife. Margaret's voice cut through, sharp as ice. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on Madison. You may have a ring on your finger, but you are no wife. A wife respects. A wife honors. You've done neither. Madison scoffed, but her voice cracked. You don't know me. Margaret's gaze burned. I know enough. Jake's hands trembled as he turned back to his aunt. What are you talking about? What inheritance? My father died broke. We lost everything. Mom worked herself raw to keep us afloat. My chest tightened. Yes, I whispered. I scraped together, every penny just to keep the lights on. There was nothing left. Margaret took a deep breath, her eyes softening as they landed on me. That's what you believed. But it isn't the whole story. She opened her purse again, pulling out a thick, weathered folder. She placed it on the table next to the ashes of the Maple Street deed. Jake reached for it with trembling hands. Inside were legal documents, bank statements, trust forms, sealed letters. Before Ben passed, Margaret explained, he moved money into a trust under Jake's name. He didn't tell you, Ruth, because he knew you'd use every cent to cover bills, and he wanted something left for Jake's future. He made me the custodian. I was supposed to deliver it when Jake turned 30, but I stayed away too long. Jake's hands shook as he flipped through the papers. This is real? Margaret nodded. Every cent is still there. Investments, savings. With interest, it's worth nearly $2 million today. Gasps filled the room. The cousins clutched each other's arms, wide-eyed. Madison's father sat back, stunned into silence. And Madison, Her eyes turned into black holes of greed. She lunged forward, grabbing at the papers. 2 million? Jake, this is it. This is our chance. We can have the life we deserve, luxury, travel, everything. Forget your mom's guilt games. Forget the drama. This is all we need. Jake snatched the folder back, glaring at her with a fury I'd never seen before. You don't get it, do you? This money isn't about luxury. It's about my father's sacrifice, my mother's pain. It's about respect, and you don't deserve to touch a cent of it. Madison's face twisted. How dare you? I'm your wife. Jake's voice thundered, shaking the room. Not for much longer. The words landed like a hammer. Madison froze, her mouth opening and closing, but nothing came out. I looked at my son, my heart aching with pride and sorrow all at once. He was finally choosing respect, but Margaret wasn't finished. She placed a firm hand on Jake's shoulder. There's one condition Ben wrote in the trust. If Jake marries someone unworthy, someone who disrespects his family, the trust can be withheld until he corrects his path. Ben knew the dangers of greed. He wanted Jake to learn from his mistakes. Madison let out a strangled cry. This is ridiculous. You're all against me. This is a setup. Her father stood, his face red with shame. No, Madison, this is the truth. And you've just proven you were never worthy of him or this family. The room was heavy with silence. Jake clutched the folder to his chest, his knuckles white. Madison collapsed into the chair again, sobbing hysterically, realizing everything was slipping away. And just when I thought the storm had broken, Margaret spoke again, her voice low, almost trembling. There's something else you all need to know. The inheritance isn't just money. There's a letter inside the trust, and in it, Ben names the one person he wanted Jake to share it with when the time came. Jake's brow furrowed. Share it with? Who? Margaret hesitated, then whispered the words that shattered the air. Your half-sibling. The room erupted. Shouts, gasps, questions flying like sparks. My knees buckled as the world tilted under me. A half-sibling? I gripped the edge of the table, my heart racing, because if Margaret was telling the truth, then Ben had carried a secret all those years that could destroy everything we thought we knew about him and about us. The room turned into chaos. Voices overlapped, gasps and whispers filled the air, and Madison's sobs turned into high-pitched shrieks of disbelief. Jake stood frozen in the middle of it all, clutching the folder to his chest as if it were a lifeline. His voice broke through the noise, sharp and trembling. What do you mean, half-sibling? Margaret's eyes softened, though her words came heavy. Ben made a mistake long before he married your mother. A mistake he carried in silence. He had a child with another woman, a woman he cared for, once, but left behind when he chose to build a life with Ruth. He never told Ruth the full truth because he didn't want to break her heart. But he couldn't leave this world without making things right. I felt the air leave my lungs. My knees nearly gave out, but I held the edge of the table to stay upright. You're telling me, all these years he kept this from me? Margaret's eyes glistened with guilt. Yes, Ruth. And I was the only one who knew. He made me promise to keep it hidden until the time came. The trust letter names Jake as the rightful heir, but it also states that he must share it with his half-sibling once they are found. Jake's face twisted with shock and betrayal. Half-sibling? Somewhere out there. I have a brother or sister. And Dad never told me. Madison sprang to her feet, wild-eyed, her tears suddenly replaced by calculation. Wait, this could change everything. She lunged toward Jake, clawing at the folder. If there's another heir, then we have to find them. Think about it, Jake. If we control the money, we control the search. This could still work in our favor. Jake shoved her hand away so hard she stumbled back. His voice thundered. Stop it, Madison. This isn't about you or your greed or what you think you're owed. This is about Dad's choices and the family I didn't know I had. Margaret nodded firmly. Ben's words were clear. Respect first. Family first. The money was only meant to bind you together, not tear you apart. Madison's father stood, his face twisted with rage and disappointment. He pointed at his daughter. Do you see now? Do you finally see the monster you've become? Even in this moment, when your husband's world is falling apart, you're only thinking about money. You disgust me. Madison's face crumpled. Dad, please. No. His voice roared. You're no daughter of mine until you change. I won't shield you from this any longer. The cousins whispered frantically, their eyes darting between me, Jake, and Margaret. The weight of the secret pressed down on us all. Jake collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. So what now? Where do I even begin? I have a half-sibling I've never met, a marriage falling apart, and a father I thought I knew who was living with secrets this whole time. Margaret placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You begin by honoring the truth. We'll find your sibling together. I'll help you. That's why I came. But before Jake could answer, Madison snapped, her voice sharp, desperate, and dangerous. No, you're not taking this away from me. That money should still be ours. If I can't have it, then no one can. She lunged toward the fireplace, where ashes from the Maple Street deed still smoldered. Her hand darted for the folder in Jake's lap, trying to rip it away and throw it into the fire. Madison, don't you dare! I shouted, leaping forward. Jake twisted away, clutching the folder tight. Margaret grabbed Madison's arm, yanking her back with surprising strength. The room erupted into chaos, shouting, struggling, furniture scraping. And then, in the middle of the fight, something slipped from the folder and fluttered to the floor. Another envelope. Jake bent down, snatched it up, and froze when he read the words written in Ben's handwriting. To my other child. The room went silent. Even Madison stopped struggling. Everyone stared at the envelope, the weight of its meaning pressing down like thunder. Jake's voice cracked as he held it up. It's real. Dad really had another child. And in that moment, I realized our lives were about to change forever. Because somewhere out there was another heir to Ben's secrets, another piece of this broken family. And when they stepped into our world, nothing would ever be the same again. The envelope in Jake's hand felt like a live wire. His fingers trembled as though the weight of it burned. Everyone in the room stared, waiting, holding their breath. Jake's voice cracked. To my other child, he whispered it like the words themselves betrayed him. All this time, Dad kept this from us. Margaret's eyes softened with sorrow. He didn't mean to betray you, Jake. He thought he was protecting you, protecting Ruth. But secrets have a way of finding their way back when you least expect them. I pressed a hand to my chest. My heart thudded like a hammer. I gave my life to that man. I loved him through sickness and through every hardship. And now I learn he had another child. My voice shook, the anger and heartbreak laced together like poison. Jake turned toward me, eyes wet. Mom, I don't even know what to think. He was my hero. Now, his words broke. He pressed the envelope to his chest and looked at Margaret. What do I do? Do I open it? Do I find them? Margaret nodded slowly. Yes, Jake. You honor your father's last request. But more than that, you find the truth for yourself. Not for the money, for the blood. Madison's voice sliced through the tension, shrill and venomous. Blood, don't be ridiculous. This is nothing but a scam. For all we know, this half-sibling could be anyone. A con artist, a stranger looking to grab half of what should be ours. Jake's head snapped toward her, his jaw tight. Ours? Madison, there is no ours. Not anymore. You've made it clear all you care about is money. Madison's face twisted, her voice shrieking. You can't just throw me away. We're married, Jake. You don't get to decide this alone. If there's money, I have a right to it too. Margaret's voice was cold as steel. Not if the marriage doesn't last. Madison's face drained of color. She spun toward me, desperate now. Mrs. Parker, please, you have to talk to him. You can't let him throw this away. Think about your future. Don't you want him taken care of? Don't you want him secure? I stared at her, my voice low but steady. He already is secure. Because he has me. He always had me. What he doesn't need is a wife who treats his mother like trash and tries to burn his father's legacy to ashes. Madison staggered back, as though I'd slapped her. Jake lifted the envelope again, his hands steady now. I'm going to find them. Whoever my half-sibling is, they deserve to know the truth. And I deserve to know them. Madison shook her head furiously. No, you can't do this. If you split that money, we'll lose everything. Jake's voice boomed, stronger than ever. Madison, wake up. There is no we. Not after everything you've done. Her father stood slowly, his voice heavy with shame. He's right. Madison, you've destroyed this marriage yourself. And if you don't leave with dignity, you'll leave with nothing. Madison's chest heaved, her eyes darting between us all. Then something in her snapped. She lunged for Jake again, this time not for the folder, but for the envelope itself. And oh, she screamed, if I can't have it, nobody can. Jake jerked back, but Madison's nails clawed the paper. It tore slightly at the corner. Everyone shouted at once. Margaret grabbed Madison's arm. I reached forward. Jake twisted away. The room was chaos. The envelope caught in the middle. And then, in the struggle, it slipped free, fluttering to the floor by the fireplace. For a split second, time froze. The envelope lay just inches from the smoldering ashes of the deed I had burned hours before. One wrong move, one spark, and it would be gone forever. Madison's eyes went wide. She lunged again, her hand outstretched. It's mine. Jake dove after her, his hand slamming onto the envelope just as hers reached for it. His voice thundered through the room, raw with rage and finality. Enough, Madison. This ends now. The entire room froze. The envelope clutched in his fist, Madison gasping beneath his glare. And in that silence, Jake turned to me, his eyes blazing with resolve. Mom, tomorrow I'm opening this letter. And then I'm going to find my sibling, no matter what it costs. The decision was made. But in the corner, I caught the flicker of Madison's eyes. Dark, calculating, unbroken. And I knew then that she wasn't finished. She was planning something desperate. The morning light crept through my curtains, casting long shadows across the living room. None of us had really slept. The folder sat on the coffee table, the torn envelope in Jake's hands, trembling but unyielding. Margaret sat nearby, her face calm but watchful. I held my breath as Jake slid his finger along the seal. The room was so quiet you could hear the faint crackle of the fireplace cooling from last night's fire. Madison sat in the corner, her hair a mess, her eyes red but burning, not with sorrow, but with a cold, simmering hatred. Jake opened the envelope and pulled out a single folded letter. His lips parted as he began to read aloud. To my other child, I am sorry I could not be in your life the way a father should. I made choices that left scars, and for that I can never be forgiven. But I want you to know this. You are my blood, and I loved you from afar. I have left something behind, not just for Jake, but for you. Find him. Find your brother. Together, the two of you can carry what I could not. Always remember, family is more than a name. It is the respect we give one another. Ben Parker. Jake's voice broke on the last line. His hands shook as he lowered the letter. So it's real. I, I have a sibling out there. Margaret nodded. Yes, and I know where to start. I've kept track, in small ways. I never lost sight, completely. Everyone gasped. My heart jumped into my throat. You know who they are? Margaret hesitated, then leaned forward. It's a daughter. She's grown now. Her name is Claire. She lives in Chicago. She doesn't know the truth yet. Jake's face paled, his voice a whisper. A sister. Before he could say more, Madison shot to her feet, her voice shrill and venomous. This is insane. You're just going to let some stranger waltz in and take half of what should be ours. Jake whipped around, his voice like thunder. Ours? Madison, how many times do I have to say it? There is no ours. Not anymore. You've lied, you've schemed, you've disrespected everyone in this room. You tried to burn my father's letter, and you tried to impersonate my mother to steal control of the wedding funds. You are done. We are done. Madison's chest rose and fell in rapid bursts. Her face twisted with rage. You'll regret this, Jake. You'll regret throwing me away. You think you can just cut me out after everything I've given you? Her father's voice cut across hers like a blade. Everything you've given him, you gave him shame. That's all. His eyes narrowed. And if you don't leave this house right now, Madison, I'll make sure every one of our family friends knows exactly what you tried to do. For the first time, Madison faltered. She looked around the room, realizing there was no ally left. Even the cousins, who had been quiet until now, turned their faces away from her. Her eyes landed on Jake one last time. You'll come crawling back, she hissed. When you realize blood isn't enough, when you realize respect won't keep you warm at night, you'll see what you lost. But Jake didn't flinch. He stood tall, the folder clutched to his chest. I'd rather stand alone with respect than lie in bed with someone who is none. Madison's face twisted, then crumpled. With a sharp, frustrated cry, she grabbed her purse and stormed out the door, slamming it so hard the windows rattled. Her footsteps pounded down the porch, fading into the morning air. The silence that followed was heavy, but for the first time in years, it felt like fresh air filling the room. Jake sank into the couch, his face in his hands. Margaret sat beside him, resting a gentle hand on his shoulder. This is the beginning of something new, Jake. Painful, yes, but new. I walked to my son, placing my hand on his back. You've chosen respect. Your father would be proud. My voice cracked. And so am I. Jake lifted his head, tears streaking his face, but his eyes burning with resolve. Then tomorrow, he said firmly, I'm going to Chicago. I'm going to find Claire. She deserves to know the truth. We both do. Margaret nodded, her eyes shining. I'll help you. I looked at the folder, at the letter, at the ashes in the fireplace. Everything that had been hidden was finally coming into the light. And though my heart ached with betrayal, it also pulsed with something new. Hope. Because for the first time in a long time, Jake wasn't walking into a future built on lies. He was walking toward truth, toward family, toward something his father couldn't give him, but perhaps his sister could. The story of betrayal, heartbreak, and greed wasn't over, but a new chapter, one of healing, respect, and redemption, was about to begin.